Audit committee meeting. It's April 15th, 2025. Wow, and a knock at the door already. We're very excited to have everyone here today. Unfortunately, Miss Manuel is under the weather and unable to join us today. Dimitri, you're welcome. You're just coming in. You can have a seat right down there at the end if you'd like. I know you're not up right away, but we welcome you. Today is going to be an action-packed meeting as we have multiple people speaking. And we're going to start with Mara Anderson, our internal claims auditor. We also have the topic of the insurance that we spoke about last year. And then Dimitri's going to give us some quick highlights that they're going through as they're doing the internal audit for us. All right. And then in addition to that, I'll cover some housekeeping at the end. But if you guys don't mind, we're just going to dive right into it. So, as I said, do you need a copy of anything? Okay. As I said, we welcome Mara Anderson, our internal claims auditor. She comes to us once a year as part of this committee to just kind of go through what her roles and responsibilities are, and also to apprise us of what she's seeing from a claims audit standpoint. I just want to remind everyone on this committee that monthly, the Board of Education does receive her reports, and she outlines what she similarly outlines to us, like what she's seeing as a pattern, how many claims that she had to have a question on, how they were resolved, rectified, and whatnot. So I know she's going to go through some of that, but we wanted to give at least an overview through a presentation. So if you don't mind, Jean, we're going to switch over to the presentation now. All right, and we're gonna just have a quick discussion about this. I'm gonna give some overview. She's gonna provide us with information about the second quarter from October to December 2025. And just quickly, just to refresh everyone's memory, the role of the claims auditor, I wanna make sure that everyone understands. We have external auditors, we have internal auditors, and we have an internal claims auditor. Mara, as our internal claims auditor, is an employee of the district, but she does not work in the business office, does not work in the accounting office. In fact, she works in the facilities office. She doesn't deal with the purchasing or anything of that. She's completely removed on it. So that's something that you want for your internal claims auditors. They are removed from that, so there's no impropriety. She's making sure that our goods and services were received, that we had POs and payments are authorized in advance, and that the POs and payments that were authorized in advance match the claims that are submitted. So she has to have very good eyes and love spreadsheets, I guess, to look at all of those things, right? It's like looking at your checking account a lot. She reviews the voucher packets weekly and verifies the purchase orders and the proper approvals are placed and flags any discrepancies. And that's what we've talked about in this meeting in the past, is those discrepancies that have come up and how frequently they've come up, or thankfully for her hard work, we've actually seen, as we've been bringing her in, a lot of those discrepancies have decreased and some good processes have come into play.
Yes.
So thank you for that. Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
I have an early question.
Yes.
Throughout my time on this committee, I've always been afraid of betraying my ignorances.
No.
But this time, I really feel like I have no choice.
No, please.
How are we using the word claim here?
Well, that's a wonderful thing. So do you want to describe what a claim is from your perspective?
What it is all the backup paperwork. There's a requisition that starts if somebody needs to purchase something for goods or service. There is a requisition that goes through. Then that gets changed into a purchase order. Now, once we have the purchase order, we have to make sure we have the invoice. Sometimes there's prevailing wage gets attached to any of our vendors that come in to do services, and all of the backup. So what we call that really is a voucher packet. So all of that is what we call as a claims. So the voucher packet contains the, like I said, the rec, the purchase order, a quote, depending on that. Sometimes if there's no contract and something is over $2,000, we have to have 3 quotes. So all of that backup has to be included before we can send it out for payment.
I see. So a claim is just the process
Yes,
by which an
but
expense
yes,
gets paid.
exactly.
The
Yes.
whole process.
And each check, like a check stub gets attached, everything gets attached.
Okay.
So then I have to go through every single one and make sure that we have all the correct backup to send out the payment.
Thank you.
And Dimitri, not Dimitri, I'm sorry, Nikos, I have all my Greeks in the room, so right, I'm but Nikos, because you asked that question, the next slide was that whole process there that she went through to make sure that we had it. And she actually described it even better than the slide does. So I think we have that for our reference, and I appreciate the question. Thank you for that. And then what basically happens is she has different checks activities by different funds.
Yes.
So general fund, food services, I don't know what CM is.
CM used to be the
Special
TA.
revenue.
Oh, that's what I thought it used,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
thank you,
Mostly
special
student
revenue.
deposits,
Yes.
field trips.
Okay, and then we
Yep.
have special aids and then capital checks that you're reviewing. And so you'll see they have certain check numbers that are
Yes.
associated with them, so she knows which bucket
And with
and
the
which
capital,
fund.
there's an H fund, but there's a bond
Mm-hmm.
and a capital.
Okay,
So that's why the numbers are different. The capital checks, that's coming out of our budget. The bond is the one we had done from 2014.
correct. And what this is making sure of, to match as part of that process is that if we have the appropriations already allocated, then as we're filing the claims against those appropriation line items, you'll be able to see the checks and they fall in each of those.
Yes.
In
And
this,
then-
in this drawing, it's a mason jar, but I like to say buckets, so yes. And then what we see is our summary of how much she looks at. She looks at 1,962 total checks reviewed from this October to December
Yes.
2025 period, which is $19,431,524. And out of all of those checks, there were 40 that were voided.
That's a little high.
Why so high? Why is that so high?
It could be that it was an internal void, that the printer didn't work correctly. It could be remit address. It could be that it was an incorrect amount that was keyed for the payment, which didn't, that didn't equal the amount of the invoice. So it was like a typo.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead, I think we're done.
yes.
No, I was gonna say, I asked this question last year, but I forgot the answer. This 1962, is that all of them? Like, is that
That is
the
a
sample?
quarter.
A quarter of all
So
of
it's
them?
3 months.
And how do you select the sample? What basis do you use for your sample? selection?
What I have is what I send to the Board of Ed every month.
Okay.
I send it.
Oh, it's all, okay.
Yes, so, and what I do is it's a summary, and I, every month, and then I summarize them.
So it's okay. Thank you.
And all the voids are not errors. Sometimes it never gets to the recipient.
Yes, it
or
could-
they
yes.
lose it.
The destroyed check, never received. There's many different things on each run, each check run, which is every week.
This reminds me of a point, and I need to double check the allowability of this, but the Board of Education, like I said, receives these reports. But we all sit here and we talk about this in greater detail and really make sure that the process is working the way that it is, which it is, and we ask these thoughtful questions. I'm gonna see if we can also include you all. You're under oath, you're seeing confidential financial information, and I think it will be more worthwhile if you can have some sort of access to these documents, at least in advance of the meeting, if not getting them monthly. So I'm gonna put that on my action list. This is, again, I wanna mention, for those of you that are new and for those of you that are seasoned, the ones that are seasoned, for a long time, the audit committee didn't meet as regularly as we meet now, and we didn't have a lot of these processes in place. And until recently, we started doing our visits with the internal claims auditor. And so every time we do a visit, we think of something new that comes out of it that we can learn and grow from. And I think it'll help you guys also, so that it doesn't just seem like you're thrown into this and you have a little more of a window. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna put that on there, okay. All right, so wonderful, so we have that. Any more questions regarding her summary? Yeah.
I think we actually touched on this at a previous meeting, and I don't remember the response. Why is the district still writing so many damn checks? Not why are they paying so much money? Why are they writing so many checks?
On the ACH?
We're trying to get ACH. We need to formulate an online banking policy, which is with, I believe, the policy committee at this point. I've been trying to remind Kathy about that.
So here's what I'm gonna recommend. You're exactly right.
Good morning, I'm so sorry I'm late, there was so much traffic. and
No, please join.
Then I got, okay.
I pulled the chair up.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
So we're in the middle of talking about our audit claim, our internal claims auditor, and we'll come to it just a second, and so we just had a question on the table. So yes, you know what, I think that is correct, and we haven't seen that the online banking policy has come into play. I'm gonna recommend, we have no policy at all, is that correct?
Right.
But we do, Social Security, I mean, they're,
We
the
do the
reimbursement, Medicare
Medicare reimbursement
the
to employees,
ACHs.
to ACH at this point, so that's it.
Oh, please, Dimitri, yes.
So I know we have worked with Donna on the online banking policy, and it was something that we discussed in our prior risk assessment
Yes.
or.
I think it's like two ago,
Yeah.
I
yes.
thought I remembered
Yes,
this comment
yes.
coming up.
So we, and I know it's in the works, to develop one, we shared like a sample, because we've seen other districts in the same, question that you have. Why can't we do accounts payable online while we do direct deposits online? And we pay all the employees online. Kind of seems natural now, like we're in 2026, where all of these transactions, primarily in our personal life, I don't know about you, I only run one check, a month, to my landscaper. All the other payments are online. So, just so you know, a lot of school districts are in the same, boat. They're trying to figure this out. But they're trying to figure it out in the most safe possible way. There is a lot of, cybersecurity threats, with ACH and these online payments, and school districts are a target, because they know they have cash. So we wanna make sure, we have good controls, on the accounts payable process. So we encourage it, because it's gonna streamline the whole accounts payable process, but we wanna make sure the controls are good in place. There is.
However, you all audit those controls for us annually, or was that only as part, is that one of the parameters that's audited annually? I guess I should ask it that way.
For the risk assessment, what we
Yes.
do include is the review of the controls, for online banking, surrounding the wire transfers, to make sure we have dual controls, we have the wire templates, set up properly. On the payroll side, we wanna make sure the direct deposits are only done by authorized people,
Right.
and the notch file is controlled when we upload it to the bank, and so on the banking side, we wanna make sure there's positive pay, and so.
So that's part of that internal review every year that we
It
do.
is, it is,
So
it
we at
is.
least have someone checking it. So as long as we had a policy in place and we're constantly monitoring it, it provides us some protections as well as our cybersecurity side. Or
Correct,
what am I
correct, but-
missing?
Look at the summary. In the
Yes.
quarter, the district processed almost 2,000 checks. That's a big volume compared to
Yes.
your payroll.
Yes.
So that's where I wanna say the intensity of the controls should be enhanced, to make sure we're not subject to any victims here.
Right.
Yeah, I think we had talked in the past, with checks, you have check fraud, and then with ACH or wire, you got fraud there if a character comes in and you verbally confirm and things like that. But I thought we said, let's attack it from the largest dollars down, right?
Yes.
That's where the risk is. And on the largest dollars, I'll make it up, let's say there are 50 vendors. Put those 50 vendors onto ACH, have multiple layers of approval and have it locked down, and it can never be changed, and there's a whole nother process. So this way you're covering the dollars on ACH, and then your check fraud is a lower dollar, lower risk, because it's spread across so many vendors.
Yeah.
So I think that's an excellent recommendation, which is also why I'm gonna make a further recommendation that if this is a question that continues to recur, and it also is an action item that came up through our internal audit that we had done a couple iterations ago, it was a corrective action plan. What I'm gonna recommend, and I'm hoping it will go well with the board, I think it will go well here, is maybe, Donna, we could provide us a copy, if you still have it, of the samples that Dimitri has provided of the policy. I'd like each of us as committee members to kind of redline it a little, and then we can discuss it at our next meeting and bring it forth to the policy committee to help put that forward. We also will have the benefit of Dimitri will be here at our next meeting also, and maybe you can look at how we've redlined this policy and provide some expert opinion and guidance on it as well to help move that ball forward. Would that be helpful?
Right, yes, and it's already formulated. There was one issue that, I forget, somebody didn't agree with, and they wanted the bank to verify something, and they couldn't do that, so we'll follow up on that.
Okay,
And
so,
some of our
We'll just
voids-
remove that wording.
And some of our voids also, which included that, is as an ACH that went to the bank, but the bank rejected it. So those are some of our voids also.
is that a number of, do you
Yeah,
know?
like the account must have changed and nobody notified us, so our things get kicked back that way too with the ACHs
Okay,
for the Medicare reimbursement.
right.
So regardless if it's a check or ACH, we'll still have that many in processed checks.
Correct.
Do we have a timeline for that policy? Because I think we talked about it being developed last year, so we're.
Well, everything,
I don't know how long it
everything-
takes to implement the policy or finalize the policy, but
sadly, policies tend to take longer, which is why I'm suggesting that this committee can use our expertise and knowledge to help expedite slightly, and then it would go to the policy committee for their review and then read by the board. So I think if we try that, it will help move it forward a little faster, and also I like to take advantage of the expertise in this room to discuss it, and I think it's well within the purview of what we do as the audit committee as well, and it came out of a corrective action plan, so we're gonna try and move that along. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Excellent, what a great idea. Good teamwork, everyone, thank you. All right, and then I think at the end, we've just, we have a strong compliance. Mara, we didn't have you speak at all about anything that you've seen this year during that October, December time period that, or any improvements that you've seen that have happened, or anything that you're working to improve. I don't know if you have anything like that to share.
I'm very pleased working with the business office. I feel that we work well together. If there's an issue, they take care of it.
Great.
Things have gotten a lot better with all of the backup paperwork that goes with our summary or our claims voucher. And if there's not, then they really get on it right away and they provide it with me, so in order for the check to go out.
So this year you said that the number of voided checks was very
Yes.
high in comparison, and I feel like it is higher in comparison to the numbers you saw.
The last report that I did, I believe there were about 23.
That's what, yes, we were usually in the 20s.
And, this was high, that's what I had said. I
Yes.
felt that this was a little high.
Yes,
But there's so many different reasons, every month could be different. And this quarter, for some reason, just seemed to be a little higher.
yes, but nothing out of the ordinary or anything like that.
No,
So that's
definitely nothing out of the ordinary.
Wonderful.
No, definitely not.
Just a question. I would just ask, what is it compared to last year's same quarter? So that was quarter four. Well, do you go you don't
It's
go
second
fiscal?
quarter, it's second
Yeah, it's
quarter.
second quarter.
It's
So
second
it's just second quarter of this school year, so just what was last year's
I think we were
second
in the
quarter,
20s.
was it? Because it's only 2%.
Right.
It's very low. Like, I know it looks and feels
Right.
large, but it's literally 2%, so that just could be the margin of error, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
it could have been fine. I'm not saying like dismiss
No, I think
it, but,
that's her point. I think that's her point, is she's noticing that it's large, but it's larger than it has been.
Yes.
If I'm understanding, but,
With your numbers, yes, it's probably in range, but I'm noticing an increase in having to report the voided checks in my claim summary that I submit, to Donna, and then Donna submits.
but it's nothing that is coming out of the ordinary that there's, at our last time that we discussed this last year, there were certain process changes that we made with the business
Yes, and I
office to
feel like
help
that's gotten
streamline.
better.
And that's gotten
Much
better.
better.
So
Much better.
maybe this was a fluke, or like you're saying, the
Yeah.
margin of error in that particular
Yes.
quarter, but you're not seeing with this number of voided checks that any processes need to be changed, or we need to enhance
No.
anything,
No,
potentially.
because nothing is out of the ordinary.
Okay,
It's just that sometimes there's more than other months, but there's nothing out of the ordinary.
Just quick on, when you get a copy of the voided checks, make sure they're properly voided and it's not, someone says it was voided and they don't show you that it was, so that it can be misappropriated.
Sometimes I'll get a note, or sometimes I will actually get a copy of the check that was voided, and they write on it voided and attach it to the whole packet.
Okay. I'm just saying, like, you should see a copy of every check, making sure it's void, because otherwise the checks could be misappropriated that way. Someone could say it was voided, then do it, and you won't catch that
And
until the
it's
bank recs
also
done.
on our warrant also, the check number, the date it was voided, and the amount. So I see that on our warrants.
Right, but the check itself, what I'm saying is if the check itself isn't properly voided, someone can misappropriate it, you wouldn't catch that until you do the bank rec later on. So I just wanna make sure someone's seeing
You
that
are
there is an
correct on
actual
that,
voided check.
but a majority of my voucher packets have a copy of the voided check.
Right, all I'm saying is it should be 100%, so if there's something that isn't there, we should inquire, why is the check, like, did it get stuck in the machine?
Yeah, but that
And it got ripped and destroyed, then let's like document
Where
when
it
somebody
says
saw
voided.
it.
I've
Or
had
it
that
is
in a
no
private
copy.
company where you've mailed it and it's not received, so you can't
Right.
help that.
So
Right,
that
but
might
she
be
would have
to
seen,
know.
but she
Yeah.
would have seen the check go out originally. So what I'm saying
So
is,
you're
at some point,
correct.
her eye should either be on every check, or like, if in the rare case that it gets shredded in the printer somehow, like,
Which
okay,
happens,
someone
like-
would document, hey, I saw it, it was shredded, fine.
Correct.
Otherwise, you can get missed, and again, depending on how quick the bank recs are done, it could take time until you discovered it.
And sometimes we don't have the check if it's in a case where we have to reissue it to the recipient that didn't receive it, so we won't have that.
No, that's fine, but you would have seen it the first time it
Or
went
it
out.
gets
So someone would have
destroyed, like
validated,
you
oh, yes,
said.
I did see that, it followed our proper controls, so it did go to a valid vendor, it was for a proper amount. It got lost in the mail, that's fine, but you knew that the original check was proper.
You're talking about the
I'm talking
outgoing,
about a
you're
check
the
that-
outgoing check is what
Right,
you're talking about.
right, the first time it goes
The
out.
first time it goes out,
Or the
right,
first time the
from
package
us.
is done,
It's
right.
on
us.
the warrant when I audited it for the first time.
Yeah, as long as a copy of the check is there, I'm fine with it.
Yes.
A
Yeah,
copy of the
okay.
check is
Yes.
No, like the actual check, not, I'm sorry, not a photocopy, the actual check before it goes out, or you're seeing it after it's been mailed?
She,
You're not looking at
she's
that.
not looking
no.
at, she's not. in the
She's seeing it
business
after,
office,
she's
she
auditing
sees
it after the fact, got it, I
Yes,
misunderstood.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so someone in the business office then is actually making sure every check is there, okay,
Correct.
okay,
Yes, like I get a copy of the check,
got it.
with my voucher packet, and they're in yellow, and it's, it states every purchase order, every entry from that check, and the amount.
Got it. I misunderstood.
remember-
You're seeing it
remember-
after it goes out. I got it.
Because she
Yeah, yeah.
has no connection at all to the
Right,
business
yep.
office in that regard,
Okay,
right?
that makes sense.
But the person that entered the voucher is actually looking that a check was processed
Right.
for it and matching them up to the
Right.
paper.
So in the business office, someone's validated that
Yes.
they're all out, okay.
And then say I put through a check and it gets voided, I report that it whatever happens and it gets voided. So on the next warrant, usually the next week, it'll say the check number, the date it was voided, the check, the purchase order, so there's a proof there
Got it.
what was voided
Okay.
on the warrant.
Okay,
And
great.
then if we do have the actual check and we're voiding it, I tell them to cut my signature out and
Yes,
write
and I've
it
seen
on.
that too, and it gets attached to the
Yeah.
voucher packet.
Perfect, perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions? Oh, yeah.
At the next meeting, we're gonna go over the ECH,
The next, so what I'm gonna ask is that this committee will receive, the copy of the draft of whatever sample we have. You'll get that, I'm gonna ask that they mark it up and you can return it so I'll give you a date. We'll return it in advance of that date and I'll make sure that everyone, I'll figure it out so we're all in a Google Doc, we can redline it and then that will be a topic that we discuss in the next meeting.
And you said you already do ECH for,
ACH is done for Medicare reimbursement twice a year. It's usually December, and I believe there's one coming up.
In June, yeah, for
Yes.
former employees.
Yes.
so I'm assuming you're not here next meeting, but you would be here the next meeting and are versed in that process?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
I'll have my questions.
And also
for
that
meeting for
comes on a warrant, it has a different number, it's like a 4-digit number, and it says who it's going to and the amount. And then I look through that, and usually that's a heavy warrant packet. And I look through that and the check stubs and, and I sign off on it.
Okay, does that sound good?
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We love having you every year, so thank you. And actually, you know what I think we're gonna do? In addition to having you, we'll incorporate the audit committee in on the reports as well, is I think we're gonna do this meeting in April next year as well, as opposed to January. I think it just gives us all a little more time and we can, move forward. Does that sound
Yes, right, because it was gonna be and then it got canceled, yes, I remember.
See you next year.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that also helps because I think what we'll do is when we talk about date setting, that January meeting always is a little iffy. So maybe we'll make this April meeting more substantial and do that. And then we'll go into our other meetings. All right?
I have that.
We can go back to the camera view. All right, wonderful. Thank you very much.
The spreadsheet that has.
Oh, Adriana, yes.
That's it, yeah.
That's what you need?
Thank you. I'll take that
Might as
also.
well get them.
I'll take the extra.
I know. So we're gonna scoot down on this side so we can welcome everyone. Sorry, we're a little tight, and these chairs unfortunately are so large that they take up everything. I know that y'all are cozy, that's fine.
It's all good.
That's fine, perfect.
Sorry again, I'm late. A lot of traffic out there today.
I just need a minute of arm room, that's it. Oh, you all saw me.
No, I'm saying,
Oh, okay, yes.
your way.
You all saw me pull up this presentation, did you not? Oh, PowerPoint right here, great, okay. Adriana.
Yes.
Nice to meet you. I'm Julie Epstein.
Hi.
I'm the chair of the committee. I'm actually gonna have everyone go around just to refresh memories and everything. And also, just for introduction's sake, since we're all kind of now here. And then Dimitri, did you have a one-pager just for some housekeeping that you're discussing with us?
I don't know if it was shared, but I did.
That's okay. Do you have, is your thing a Remarkable or is it a iPad that you have with you?
iPad.
It's an iPad. If I gave you access to Apple TV, you could share it up if you wanted to. We unfortunately don't have a copy in front of us. For those of you that didn't hear, Kathy is under the weather, and so this morning I received certain PowerPoint presentations, and this is what we're working on the best that we've got, right?
I think it went out in the email. If you click through the email.
Oh, it did go
yeah,
through
we
the
have
email?
that.
Okay, great, okay, wonderful. So then we all, not everyone here. Oh, so then maybe I can access it to send it to
Everyone's gonna see your email right now.
I know, let me just, do you have your email? Can you send it to Jean? Okay, and I'm gonna do slideshow. So I'm gonna tell you that this was really, Kathy was more versed on this, and the reason we're having this conversation, so Jean, we can switch back, okay, thank you, to the presentation. So what happened last year is, as we do every year, we as an audit committee think about what internal processes and controls do we want to look at to make sure that we're in compliance. And we talked about our student information management system. And we also, and I think that it was you, James, that came up with the idea of like, we should also be looking at our insurance and what we have as insurance, what we hold as insurance, our coverage, are we competitive, things of this nature. And so a matter of us doing that was working through our current representative and reaching out to see what we have, an understanding of where we are. And so that's this portion of the conversation. So I will be very candid and say I am only very little information of the conversations you and Kathy have. So I'm happy to help walk us through this presentation. I'm assuming you've seen some of this
Yes.
or no?
Yes.
Wonderful. But I'm gonna hand it over to you to
Okay,
be
absolutely.
our expert here in the room. Explain and introduce yourself after we introduce ourselves, and we'll
Okay.
kind of go through everything. In addition to that, for those of you who didn't hear, there should be a packet of what I'm gonna say are Excel spreadsheets that you all have. Neil, do you have it? Yes, great, wonderful. We're gonna have these at our disposal for these conversations, and then we'll be returning them afterwards. And also, just in case you do not know, this is a live streamed meeting, so we are on camera, and I just like to always apprise people that we are on camera. This is now in perpetuity what you say, so this is where we are. But we are not talking anything that gets covered under privilege, so we should be no problem.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So I'm just gonna go around so you know our faces and our understanding, and I'll start with Ms. Alvarez.
Sandra Alvarez, Board of Ed trustee. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, nice to meet you.
Hi, Ralph Posse, Superintendent of Schools.
Rob Venner, Audit Committee member.
Jean Kruger. I work for Kathy and the district clerk.
Neil Martin, Audit Committee member.
I'm Dimitri Bantulescas, the internal auditor for the district.
Jim Shanahan, Audit Committee member.
Nikos Andriadis, committee member.
Harry Kutsalitos, Audit Committee member.
And I'm Donna Viola, I'm the district treasurer.
Good morning. So my name is Adriana Miletus, and I am the marketing manager for NYSER, so I have all of Long Island. Kathy asked me to be here just to kind of go through the insurance, what you currently have in place, whether it's through NYSER or outside of NYSER, and we put that together on a spreadsheet. I'll tell you a little bit about NYSER, some of the history, then we'll go through some of the coverages, and I'll answer whatever questions you guys may have. Okay, and then if you want to talk about any place where you might want to fill in or fill in some gaps, we can certainly go through that as well. So NYSER is an insurance reciprocal, non-for-profit, member-owned. It was formed in 1989 in a very similar insurance market as we are experiencing today. Back at that time, there were a lot of for-profit commercial carriers that were in the market that then decided to exit for various reasons. It could have been, the litigious nature of New York, or the tough class of business that school districts tend to be, and the risks that are associated with it. So those that were left in the market, school districts were experiencing very large premiums and reduction in coverage. So out of that, NYSER was born. Currently, there's about 340 members in NYSER across New York State. It is insurance coverage specific for K through 12 in New York State. We exist solely to provide stable insurance coverage as well as risk management services to help districts mitigate losses. So in the for-profit insurance world, they're obviously in the business to make money. They have shareholders and whatnot. They might make business decisions based on market conditions or what might exist in terms of like risk or challenges in the marketplace. So they might enter and exit as their business model needs. NYSER, the reciprocal, does not do that. We are here, we've been here for 36 years, we're here for the long haul. Our sole job really is to provide insurance coverage and pay claims on behalf of the district. So that's the difference in the business model. Broad coverage and limits, per occurrence limits and aggregate limits are available to all of the NYSER members. So if a commercial coverage or commercial risk was going out to market in the for-profit world, it would stand on its own merit. The coverage afforded to that district would be specific to the underwriting criteria of that district. NYSER secures broad coverage, as I was saying before, on behalf of all the districts. So regardless of where you might be, your location, specific classifications within that, all the districts are afforded the same broad coverage. What else can I tell you about?
Does each district choose their own limits, and then is there an umbrella over all the districts?
I mean, that's a very good question. Each district, in terms of general liability coverage, in terms of incidentals within the policy, are afforded the same coverage. Now, each district is going to be specific to their own limits. So, for example, in the property market, what we show here, 445 million, that's a total of all the buildings and all the content specific to Port Washington. So a smaller district is going to have a smaller total insured value. But in terms of general liability per occurrence and general aggregate limits, those are all the same. In terms of umbrella limits, excess casualty, each district can select the limits that they want. The most that NYSER offers is 15 million per occurrence with a $30 million aggregate. There are some districts that have less than that. They might have 20, they might have 10, they might have 5, so on and so forth. So the highest that we offer is 15 million though. So, but in terms of the per occurrence, all the districts have access to the same limits.
Do you choose the carriers for all the districts?
NYSER is the carrier. So NYSER is a filed, admitted insurance carrier in the state of New York. So it's run by a board of directors who are business officials across the state, and an executive director. So now, outside of the board of directors is a management company. The management company, which is where I reside, handles the underwriting, the accounting, the marketing, all of that. We work for NYSER, but the management company handles all of that. We handle any kind of rate filings with the state of New York. So that's all the business functions really of NYSER. So, any questions other than that so far? No? So as I mentioned, there's 340 districts across the state, 115 are on Long Island. This is where NYSER was formed. About 55 in Nassau. I think we write just about all of the, or we insure just about all the districts in Nassau County, and just about the same in Suffolk County. One important aspect of an insurance reciprocal, as I was mentioning before, is if claims, in New York State, all the buildings are old, right? So you have aging infrastructure. If claims start to take up, we have member services that there's no charge for to help the districts mitigate the losses. If you were in the for-profit world, if claims start to take up, they're in the business of making money, they're for-profit. What's going to happen is you're gonna get a non-renewal notice. You all might have experienced that in your homeowners or auto or whatnot. But NYSER doesn't do that. We have services in place, as I mentioned before, that there's no charge to the district. We will work with the district to help address some of those issues that might be occurring, we have services in place, we have expertise in whether it's risk management, risk transfer, to really help keep the claims at bay. So that's a big difference between the non-for-profit and the for-profit world also. Another difference is in claims handling. A lot of times in the for-profit world, an insurance company will interpret policy language to maybe avoid paying claims in some certain situations. NYSER will interpret the policy language, since it's written by NYSER for the school districts, to pay the claims. So they will always find a way to help the district pay the claims. For example, there was in recent years, you may have heard of the CVA claims, the Child Victim Act.
Oh, yes,
right.
yes.
So insurance companies set reserves to pay claims that they're aware of that are on their books. All of a sudden, you had an influx of 200 some odd claims across Long Island that spanned decades, right? Obviously, insurance companies were not aware of that, but they were required to pay claims on behalf of the districts if they wrote the policy during that, or when the claim occurred. So one of the competitors who wrote some of the school districts at that time, set 11 lawsuits trying to not pay, right? NYSER paid all claims that were brought forth. So again, it's just partnering with the school district versus a for-profit model. Any questions on that? No? Okay. So I guess we can move on to the coverages that you currently have in place.
How many years has the district been in part of this program?
From the beginning. I believe it was that's a great question. I believe it was in like the early 1990s. So if it wasn't 89, it was early 90s. So most of the districts, I have to say, were part of a core group. That's how they really got NYSER formed, is they had to have a certain critical mass in order to get the program going.
Sorry, what is the property enhancements though?
That were
The
here,
one prior?
this one here.
Okay, so if you like, we can start with the coverages that you currently have in place. Okay.
I don't have a slide for it, so we're just gonna look on our spreadsheet.
That's why I was wondering, where am I looking?
It was an Excel spreadsheet.
Oh,
yeah,
that one,
yeah. I mean, the
okay.
PowerPoint is just sort of highlighting some of the enhancements that we offer. We could certainly go through that. I think it might be helpful to kind of look at the spreadsheet, yeah, like kind of line by line. So as I was saying, your total insured value, which is a total of all your property, your building and contents rolled up together, and that is your total limit, your total per occurrence limit. We can't even talk about a situation where that would ever be, but it's there if you need. The benefit that NYSER brings to the table in terms of property insurance is it's called like blanket coverage. So some policies, some commercial policies are scheduled where the value for this location on your policy is what that policy will pay out. When you have blanket coverage, whether or not this building is listed on your policy for $1 million, and God forbid, in the event of a total loss, it would take 5 or 10 million to build this, you have that available to you. You have full replacement costs. So whatever it costs to replace this building at today's value, you have not to exceed $445 million. Does that make sense? Okay. There's certain throw-ins in the property coverage as well, ordinance of law, if there's any questions on each of these line items. But to your question before, when you were saying, does every district have the same? Every district would have the same ordinance of law, pollution cleanup, exterior signs, and so on and so forth. So they have all those items available, those limits available to them, okay? The difference would be the total insured value, okay? If we move further down, 2 years, insurance companies buy reinsurance. It's a way to help spread the risk. A lot of that, the reinsurance market exists in the catastrophic coverage, catastrophic world, meaning wind, flood, quake, things of those sort. Due to NYSER has a very large concentration of property exposure in a small area, our reinsurance markets, we were no longer able to provide excess flood coverage and quake. They come together on one endorsement through the NYSER program. If you think about a for-profit carrier, they may be spread out. So they might write school districts across the country, but they might have a small portion in New York, a small portion in the middle, a small portion on the West Coast. So if something's happening on the East Coast, the premium on the other parts of the country balance it out or sustain them. We have New York only, one class of business. So again, we're no longer able to offer excess flood. What we did was go out to the National Flood Insurance Program, the commercial market, and secured quotes for each one of the districts, each location, so it's one policy per building, up to $500,000 for building and up to $500,000 for contents. On Long Island, flood is a very important coverage, and it's not so much as bodies of water rising, it's these flash rainstorms that were occurring. And there have been so many over the years, which is why we were no longer able to do that. So you might have a mile-wide storm that passes through very quickly, 3-4 inches of rain, next thing you know,
We've had
yes.
one in recent years.
You know it well. I was
Yes,
just going there
exactly.
next. And it was a high school, right?
It was a middle school, that was
But that's
damaged
high
very
up,
well,
right?
yes.
That's not high up, that's not close by the water, so we were seeing a lot of that. So obviously, knowing that that was very important, we reached out to Wright Flood, which is the largest writer of the NFIP policies. It's a FEMA program, but it's administered by Wright Insurance. So Port Washington did put those policies in place. So again, you have one policy per building, 500,000 for building, 500 for contents. The difference between what NYSER used to offer and this FEMA policy is that there's no aggregate. So through NYSER, there used to be $1 million per occurrence in aggregate. So that means if you had one event, you hit that $1 million early on in the policy year, that's it. There's no more available to you no more coverage available for the rest of the year. The FEMA policies is 500 for building, 500 for content, no aggregate. Meaning if you had an event in this building, you made the necessary repairs, 2 months later you had another event, you'd have that money available to you again.
We also had that experience
Wow.
at an elementary school, yes, so we've taken advantage of that.
You know it firsthand.
Yes.
So, very important to have that in place, but since NYSER could no longer offer that through the package program, we went outside to help the districts, and we did it on all Long Island and Westchester. Upstate is still able to have the excess flood through the program, but we realized how important that is, so took those measures to help secure
So
it.
is this a true statement? All school districts in the program have not gone outside to get earthquake insurance?
That's correct.
Okay.
We can now, so that is something that we're working on. We can offer for those who are interested in an earthquake quote. So that is something that we can handle for you now.
Okay, so there were exclusions, water is an exclusion, so you go outside and get a separate carrier.
Yes,
And earthquake is still an exposure for every school district.
it is, well, it's low,
Right.
I mean, you know,
Well,
just given this.
Long Beach 2 years ago had an earthquake, it's not that far away,
I know,
so
I
you
know.
never know.
And in Port Washington a couple
We
of
had
years
it
ago
also too, yeah,
yes,
we did
yeah,
as well, yeah.
absolutely, yes. And I don't ever wanna say never, but, you know, thankfully no damage, but yes, it's definitely a gap, which is why, I guess we're not listening, on the spreadsheet that I sent, it is highlighted in yellow. So, it is something that NYSER's, I'm sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry to ask some
No,
questions.
no, please do.
Are there any other material exclusions in the policies? So earthquake, you would say would be the only one at this point?
Earthquake and excess flood.
Excess flood.
And excess flood is something that we could secure for you as well if it was something that you're interested in. It would have a $500,000 deductible because that's where the NFP sits, so it would respond in excess of that. They are expensive. I can certainly, if you like, at least entertain a quote if it's something that you'd like to, you know, review and discuss. Yes, no?
Well, no, I'm just asking
Okay.
questions. I dealt with a lot of insurance risk in the profit world for many years.
Okay.
And claims and exclusions, so.
Yeah. No, it's good questions, absolutely. Yes, but those are two areas of coverage that we had to eliminate a couple years ago, again, just because of the concentration of exposure in a relatively small area. So, but definitely something on a monoline basis we can try to secure. It is something that they're looking to buy back at some point in time.
So you're saying we have flood insurance under FEMA,
You do,
but
yes.
not excess flood?
Yes.
How do you make the determination of whether it's excess or just normal flood?
Well, excess would sit above, so, the first in the event of a flood claim, and
Right.
flood being water coming from the outside in,
Yep.
from the inside out would be back of the sewers and drains, and that's included in your NYSER policy.
And that would be $500,000.
The
so I
flood
guess-
policy, right, so.
Anything
sorry.
above that, I guess, would be.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, so the FEMA policy responds first. If it goes beyond the 500,000, then the excess policy kicks in after that. Inland marine is, I'm sorry, is there any other questions on property? No? Okay. Inland marine is, coverage for your portable, movable equipment. It could be musical instruments, mobile equipment, athletic equipment, things of that sort. There's a separate policy, and there's a lower deductible on that, which is why we put certain equipment on, under that portion of the policy. Okay.
Sorry, what's EDP? EBP?
I'm sorry?
EBP? What does it stand for?
Oh, electronic data, yeah. So it could be laptops, things of that sort. Okay, moving on. Boiler machinery. Here's where the per occurrence, the limit comes in. There's a $100 million per occurrence under the boiler machinery. That's extremely broad. I don't, if there's anything specific that, okay, questions that come through. Again, if you were to go out individually to secure a commercial quote, it would be very difficult to obtain these kind of limits. Again, because an underwriter's looking at it on a one-off basis as opposed to critical mass that we have through the program, so. We offer crime, employee theft, forgery and alterations, money and securities, computer fraud, computer restoration, funds transfer. What you were saying before, I'm sorry, I forgot, what you were saying before about the checks.
Yeah.
I was shaking my head because you're absolutely right. Whatever the process is, the process always has to be.
Right.
Because you don't ever want to if you have, that's your policies and procedures and you're not following it, you could, a claim could be denied as a result. So whatever the process is, you always want to follow it. General liability, 1 million per occurrence, 3 million aggregate, that, and all of the limits below are afforded to all members. The one that I want to point out, and this is something that Kathy and I have had a discussion with, Within the general liability policy, there's an endorsement for cyber coverage. $250,000 comes with the NYSER policy. There's no charge for that. We offer limits up to $1 million. If for very little money, that's something that we spoke about, we're going to try to have added on for this coming renewal. It doesn't make sense not to have it. You also have a supplemental policy in place in addition to. Through, where is it? Okay, I think it's through Gallagher, you have a policy with Crum & Forster for another $3 million. Typically when there's, I asked Kathy to check on this as well. Typically when there's a monoline policy in place, that means a policy that's specifically written for that coverage, meaning cyber in this case. Typically that policy responds first and then anything additional responds excess. How much is enough? That's a very difficult question.
I'm sorry, your primary and their excess?
Well, no, they would be
They're
primary.
Primary.
Yes. But as I was saying before, in the event of a loss, NYSER is always going to work with the school district. Okay, so as I was saying, there's an excess policy, well, okay, we also offer school board legal liability. That covers the board in any.
What exactly does it cover?
Well, you are considered an insured under the policy, so NYSER offers a very broad description of who is an insured. So that covers the board, it covers employees of the district and any volunteers of the district as well, so that's quite broad. There's an excess policy, another way to describe it is an umbrella policy. This is very difficult to find out in the for-profit world for school districts. 15 million per occurrence, which you can find, but $30 million aggregate. So that means you could have many claims, or you could have 2 claims at $15 million, and then the policy stops once you hit the $30 million aggregate, or you could have many below that. Hopefully that's never the case, but again, $30 million aggregate. Your auto policy, again, these are coverages that are awarded to all of the districts. It's as broad as it can be. The excess policy sits over your auto policy, your legal liability policy, and your general liability policy. So if there was a claim that was to pierce the per occurrence, then the excess policy drops down to cover after that. Any questions?
That was general, we did auto just now, we did all that. And then legal liability, we talked a little bit, we mentioned that briefly. And access, which is what you just covered.
Yeah. So in terms of the package policy, which is basically everything that we just went over, NYSER really probably offers the broadest coverage that's really available out there. If you were to go out to, to the commercial insurance industry and try to secure a quote, could you get some similar coverages? Yeah, you could. We might be broader in quite a few areas. The one thing that does not come with it, as I was mentioning before, is the risk management services and the risk transfer services. One of the, I would say probably one of the most important services that NYSER offers is risk transfer. And what we do is work with the school districts. We review contracts, we review certificates of insurance, we'll make recommendations to those third-party contracts or policies to make sure that the district is protected. That's something that's not done out there because a broker who, who's providing or is working as a liaison between the insured and the carrier is not going to review your certificates because now if something goes wrong, their E&O is on the line. NYSER is a partner of the school district, so we will review those contracts, we'll review your certificates, and we will make recommendations to protect the district. So for example, you have a contractor coming on to do a roofing project. We will make sure that they have appropriate insurance, the appropriate limits, and that the certificates, if you don't have a contract in place, even if you're listed as an even if you accept a certificate of insurance from them, unless you're listed as an additional insured with a contract in place in New York State, you have no additional insurance status. So that means in the event of a claim, the district is gonna end up paying, and that's happened for many years. So, yeah.
I mean, in my experience, there are some brokers that do look at certificate of insurances because on their end, they also want to make sure you have as much coverage from someone else as possible.
Absolutely.
So I'd say that there are some groups that will have that. The bigger part of it is are we as a district utilizing that service? So do we send every single COI to?
Yes.
Every single one gets sent to you for review?
I can't say every single one. I can't say that. But you do a lot.
We send a lot.
You do a lot.
And in fact, we because of your recommendation on several of them, even from some of our volunteer organizations, certain activities had to be
you're the
modified.
ones.
Yes, you are the bad guys in this situation, so.
Yes, so I would say it's what we really focus on, because you can't see every certificate, and you guys have to keep things moving on your end as well.
Type of event.
Yeah, so it would be more the high-risk areas, so you're talking about construction, facilities use, transportation, right? So those real high-risk areas. If somebody's coming in to give a speech, if you send that contract or your certificates to us, we're gonna recommend, here's what we recommend. But the reality is this individual maybe can't obtain those limits of insurance, so it's a business decision for you guys to make. We understand this is your business, you have to run it your way. We're always gonna make those recommendations, but those high-risk areas, those are the ones where we really have to focus in on, because the district should not pay a claim because of a negligence of a contractor or a transportation or whatever the case may be, right? Now what happens? We would pay the claim on your behalf, but then your insurance is gonna go up, and it just kind of trickles down, so.
Do you ever give a recommendation? So if the district were to send some sort of vendor that didn't have the proper insurance, you give back the recommendation of the needed insurance.
Yes.
Do you offer a one-time insurance option to purchase through you or for that separate organization?
No, because we are only we're reciprocal, so we're not, even though we're an insurance company, it's a reciprocal specific to school districts. That's not to say if we could make a recommendation where a broker who might be able to help that district or that obtain that insurance.
Instead of making a business decision, here's just.
Yes, again, so our main goal is to protect the district from claims that really shouldn't be theirs, right? So transfer the risk. But yeah, if we could help out, we'll certainly point them in the right direction, because you come across that from time to time, for sure.
Can I just also ask, is in line with these questions, so we're looking at these on per occurrence basis, right, for risk management, but then do we annually have a review and process with you where we're looking at what we have as coverage, what our risks are, and maybe any modifications that need to be made for that, or?
So Kathy and I, every year would, once the renewals, the new renewal applications are complete, we'll talk about that, we'll talk about what the projections are, we'll talk about if there's any kind of rate increases or coverage changes, we'll talk about that as well. And then once the renewals are out, we'll sit and meet and discuss. But from year over year, a lot of the limits remain the same, and that's the goal,
Yes.
right? We never want to reduce the coverage, we want to add wherever we can, but you don't want to have to reduce, so. So the policies that NYSER helps, or I should say the management company, McNeil and Company, where we help facilitate coverage outside of the NYSER program. One was the National Flood Insurance Program. You have an underground storage tank policy, it's written through Chubb, we help facilitate that on your behalf as well. Again, we don't offer that coverage through the program, but given, on Long Island, there's many districts that still have the tanks underground, and obviously that could be an environmental issue at some point in time, so we have, we help put those policies in place to help cover that or protect the district in that situation. There's a supplemental, as I said before, supplemental policy, cyber policy, that you have placed through Gallagher as the broker, with Crum and Forster for a $3 million limit. You also have an excess workers' compensation. We do not help, I put it on here just for ease of viewing. It's placed by Triad Group, and the limits are spelled out there on the back page, as well as student accident. And that covers all K through 12, for all school-sponsored activities. Yeah.
Is there any reason why pre-K is not listed? Is it also just, there's no event that pre-K would be doing?
That's a good
That is,
question.
I was gonna ask that too, because it's not even just the event, I mean, the building is labeled a pre-K building, or is it considered, I guess it's part of the.
It might be, we don't handle those policies, Kathy just sent it to me so I can put it on.
But even,
But that's a very good question, but I would have to defer to Kathy on that. It could very well be.
yes, I'm writing that, I'll ask Kathy, yes.
Yeah, I just had like a one-page invoice or. So, some of the other handouts that we have here, there's a statement of values that has the building and content value by location. And then that rolls up to the total 445 at the end. As I was saying before, let's just, worst case scenario, if there was a catastrophic event that happened to the high school and it's valued at 150 million, if it took more than that to rebuild at today's cost, you would have up to 445 million in order to rebuild that. So that's the benefit of blanket coverage. It's not scheduled. So scheduled coverage would be exactly what's shown here on the policy is what would be available to you. You have full replacement cost. So, like I was saying before, the three areas that, you could say, is there an exclusion, or, is there areas to beef up, would be the earthquake, excess flood. You do have primary flood in place, excess flood, if that was something that you wanted to explore. I could definitely facilitate that for you. And something that's very easy in-house to do is the 250,000 in cyber limit, to increase that to $1 million. However, keep in mind, you also have the $3 million, supplemental outside of that. So there's really no gap there. But again, how much is enough? That's not a question that I can answer.
In my private world, we would have some of our staff members going to unusual parts of the world, and they required us to get kidnap and ransom. And it was very, very cheap insurance. Is that included, or is that not a policy we have to be?
You have worldwide coverage, but not kidnapping, no.
Not kidnapping or ransom.
No.
Don't put that idea out there.
No, but if you have CEOs who serve in the public school, come on.
High-risk areas.
I will say 30 days ago, all of us watched TV on this
Yes.
exact subject, so.
Yes, you're exactly right, you're exactly right, yes.
No, you are, absolutely. If you have CEOs who travel, or anybody, to another country, you just don't know. But aside from the risk transfer services, I was saying before, we have risk management services. So we have a risk management specialist that comes out that specifically works with your district, and they will work with your facilities director and walk the property. They do it once a year, they make recommendations, and then you guys are required to address those recommendations and then send proof back. that goes into the file, and that's, when the underwriter gets to the part where they process your renewal, like if there are certain credits or debits that need to be applied, that's certainly a good reason, to support it. We also do webinars and trainings where the risk management team will constantly provide updates. And what sparked my memory on that was when you said, travel. There has been questions that come up because of, certain world events that are like, how do we handle that? Should we be doing something differently? So our risk management team will make recommendations to school districts regularly on, how to prevent things as best can. Yeah.
Are the claims backed by anything else besides accrued excess premiums? Is there revenue from any place else besides premiums?
So, well, it's generated by premiums, but then there are reserves set, and then there's a whole nother financial part of that. We work with actuaries, both from the state and internally, where some of that money might be, and I don't know, that's outside of my world, but, where it might.
I just was on the website, all your audits are posted, so it shows like annually, all the districts aggregate somewhere about 10 million of net income every year, and it sort of goes onto the balance sheet, and they build up the balance sheet for claims.
So it's just premium reserves?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I assume that's the way most mutual companies work. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Great.
Any other questions? I appreciate you
Of course.
joining us. I don't know that we have an action at this point unless anyone sees that we do. But I don't think from an audit committee standpoint, I think we did our due diligence to ask these questions, to look at that for your thorough explanation. Does everyone, yes?
The only question I'd have is that, she's not here, but is Ms. Emanuel would have been already informing us if she wanted to look at a higher coverage, right?
Yes.
So any of the
Well,
additionals.
I think she would bring it to the board.
Yeah,
She would
yeah,
not
so
bring it
which
to this
nothing has
committee.
been brought,
Yes, nothing has been
just so
brought. I
everybody
know you
knows.
said you're having discussion about more
Yes.
cybersecurity, insurance.
But at this moment, nothing's been brought up for us to even discuss as a group here before
That
the
is-
board.
For the board, correct, and I think, just in conversations I had with Kathy this morning, the way that the arrangement or the feeling is that we are adequately covered from where we are based on all of your risk assessments and management, et cetera, other than this conversation about cybersecurity. Not that we're not covered, but this is an
Right.
ongoing conversation for everyone.
And Port Washington has, I guess, the highest limits that we're able to offer at this point in time. And again,
Well,
your property is specific solely to your property.
I have another question.
So there's nothing that we offer that you're not taking advantage of. That's probably a better way to say it.
I was just gonna ask that, so you saw my,
Yes.
you saw where I was
Well, I
going
was
with
like,
it.
how can
Just-
I?
Well, the other question would have been if Ms. Emanuel would recommend to remove any coverages, anything that cost-wise
Right.
to lower our premiums, is there anything that we're not utilizing that we're like, it's just in there, anything reduction-wise that would have been recommended? Nothing that I know, like, nothing has been suggested, so I'll leave it at that.
I would never recommend anybody to reduce coverage. I just wouldn't. I mean, sometimes, I'm sorry.
The inherent problem with assessing insurance coverage is you can't use the criterion of have I ever used it?
Yeah, I know.
Doesn't work like that.
Yes. And this is recorded, so you'll know I was the one. I'm gonna be lying now, so keep as is.
Good idea.
Excellent, well, thank you again for joining us in this
having me.
thorough
Thank you.
work, we really appreciate it.
Sure. Do you want me to leave this? Anything that
No, you're,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
you can leave it,
I mean, I have it, but.
You can leave it, we're gonna take care of disposing of all this
Okay.
information, so yes.
In the shredder.
Yes, all in the shredder.
Okay,
You can
great.
keep your PowerPoint if you so desire.
Notes.
I wrote notes on mine too. All right, so now, Dimitri, last but not least, our favorite, right? Yes, we're gonna pass this out. You don't have to project onto the screen, we're gonna pass.
I'm assuming you want you.
Yes, you're welcome to stay, this is a public meeting. And all of these audit conversations are so exciting, but.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, we appreciate it. Oh, we're chasing away all our speakers. Okay, wonderful. So as I somewhat teed it up, we're always excited to have you, Dimitri, here. I think Neil, have you met Dimitri yet? Okay, at the beginning of the year. Okay, wonderful, is one of our newest members. And Jean, have you met Dimitri? Okay, Jean is new with us, as you heard, our new district clerk, district clerk, and working in the business office as well. She replaced Ruth Smith.
Nice to meet you.
So there we have all of our introduction. I'm very big on introductions here, so we're all comfortable. I'm gonna turn it over to you. I know we're gonna hear more detail, but you're gonna give us an overview of where we stand at this point during the audit. And then I'm hoping we can have a little bit of a preview conversation as to what we want to look at for next year.
Of course, yeah.
Cycle with you. Okay.
Yeah, so thank you for having me here today. You know, we have been working based off, you know, the annual risk assessment conversation that we had where we developed the internal audit plan. And, you know, based on, you know, conversations, you know, it was, you know, decided to look at the district student data management, you know, procedures. And we have been actively working on it, you know, and we're still in the field work, you know, phase. But let me walk you through a little bit. So you know, for today's presentation, we put together this like executive summary and status report so we can walk you through where we are. So the student data management cycle, you know, the objective for this type of audit is to assess the procedures surrounding your student information, you know, system, you know, the data that is captured within that, and, you know, making sure like, you know, the data is accurate, but also like making sure that the procedures are, you know, done properly. The areas that we cover in your student data management is, you know, regarding the student registration, student attendance, student grades, and also student eligibility. So just to like elaborate on here, like student registration, you know, when their students, you know, enrolled to the district, you know, we want to make sure that they have, you know, the proper documentation to support their district residents. So then, you know, the district can utilize that student count for state aid purposes. It's very important to have the accurate numbers. And if there are students that are not district residents, then, you know, the district should have a procedure to like bill on an out-of-district tuition basis. On student and attendance procedures, we are making sure that whatever level the student is, like first, you know, elementary, middle school, or high school, you know, the attendance is taken properly, either, you know, by day or by, you know, period. If there's any lates or tardiness or absences, is that recorded properly? If there's any edits to attendance procedures within your student information systems, we want to make sure it's tracked and, you know, properly approved. Again, student attendance, it's important, you know, for, you know, state aid purposes. Student grades is, you know, where we assess the process where student grades are entered into the system, and most importantly, if there's any changes, where the process should be during the closed marking periods, if there is any changes in a student grade because they submitted your homework, they submitted your projects, that, you know, changes their grades, there is a process for request and approval and an audit trail of all these changes. And then student eligibility, we mean, you know, if there's a student who is about to attend a team sports event or extracurricular activity event, you know, is that student, you know, meeting the policy criteria regarding student attendance, you know, student grades, and, you know, code of conduct. And so that can make it equitable and fair to all the students participating, you know, to these events. For example, like we don't want to see a good football player, you know, attending, you know, this football, like, you know, tournament, but failing on student grades, you know, and, not giving the opportunity to other students who are really working hard on the grades and not participating to the team. So that's something that, we're looking for. Now, as far as our audit, where we are, we have done our planning, like meeting, with the business office and, the departments who are handling the student information system. Because it's not just the business office, it's also the curriculum and instructional office and IT. It's all a collaboration. And, we issued a document request, we interviewed employees, to understand how the process works. And we're still in the process of collecting, records. I wanna say even as of last night, we have been collecting records. So we are in the process of analyzing them and present those testing results in our report. So we do plan to have the report for review with the management team, by May. Okay?
I know you have TBD for when you're meeting with us. I'm hoping June 17th works for you all, because that's our next scheduled meeting at 9 a.m.
17. Okay. All right, so we'll make sure, we'll coordinate our calendars. We also, part of our engagement with the district is also to continue looking at the cybersecurity and NIST monitoring services to make sure, the district still is in compliance with the LOD and, the NIST framework. So in that regard, we again met, with the IT department. We discussed a couple of the observations and recommendations that we had from the prior reports. We requested additional documents because we want to see certain procedures still are in place, and so we're still in the process of collecting those records. And again, we will share a report with you regarding the status of the implementation of these recommendations and the NIST compliance. So we do believe we'll have that available also in May and present it at the next audit committee meeting.
Excellent.
Okay. One more thing here, because this is again part of our engagement with the district, not only to do a risk assessment and a cycle in the NIST, there's what we call key control testing. It's limited testing in various areas outside of the focus area, the student data management. So we're gonna be looking at bank recs, food service sales, and extra classroom activity, regarding cash receipts and disbursements. So we'll be reaching out, shortly with our document request for those areas. We'll be in contact, primarily, with Donna, to select the sample and do those testing. It's a good process, a good internal audit process to spread our services, not only to one specific area, but other operations of the district as well. And coming back to the full cycle, we'll be back in July to conduct our annual risk assessment update.
So question for you, have you audited the Medicare reimbursements and all of that? Is that planned for when you do any of the bank reconciliations? No, it's a major expense of ours.
The bank reconciliation audit program is, to make sure the general ledger matches, to the bank statements match, to the payments, on your Envision records. The Medicaid reimbursement is, part of the special ed cycle that we have done a couple of years ago. We did it in 1920. And we did something specific last year, 24-25, regarding state aid. So we did look at this area a couple of times last year.
What about the retiree health insurance reimbursement?
That's specific now on benefits.
Yeah.
Which we have not looked at it.
Okay.
In recent years.
You should put it on a cycle at some point because
This is
the discussion, yeah.
This is part of the discussion we come
Yeah.
up with, and then we bring it to the board
Yeah.
for their approval. Yes, yes, yes,
And
I'm just noticing a whole.
yes, no problem.
So I do wanna let you know that, and it's not on this specific packet that you have, but the latest risk assessment report that we issued in October has also an exhibit with the history of our internal audit services.
Correct.
It is a matrix, it's the very last exhibit, it shows you like all the areas that we have looked at, so.
Great.
If you don't have a copy, I'm more than happy to like email you one.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Go ahead.
Just a question on the first page, well, the student data management cycle. So obviously, one of the things you are looking into, you wrote, aside from registration, the student grade records, does that include assessments? So like when you say student grade records, what platform are you looking at?
Student information system.
Just
It should just be the student information,
the one-
the Aspen, which I think you're looking at the Aspen, or not Aspen. What was before Infinite Campus though? I can't
Who
remember.
knows at this point?
Synergy.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
Synergy is maybe where you're looking, or Infinite Campus, I don't know which.
We're looking at the most recent one,
Oh, so Infinite Campus then.
in campus, the
Okay.
grade changes, that are happening, over the last, school year, to make sure that if they had made any changes in the student grades, were they supported? We're pretty much, mimicking an audit that the state controllers audited, a couple of years ago at school districts, because there were findings back then that student grade changes happened with no backup and no approval. We wanna make sure that there's a control in place in that regard.
So the original, this is one of the ones we originally asked for last year, like this is a review because it was a request from audit.
Last year, yes.
But it was specific to student data,
And student
management,
information system,
information sy-
yeah.
Infinite Campus. So it wasn't where are records held or anything, so technically where I'm leading to is we have other assessments where students, it's not a grade, but student records are held. I mean, iReady keeps assessments on our students, so that's not part of this review.
No, the whole purpose of what we wanted to do is we were looking at our student information system, especially because of the fact we had
Yeah,
already
'cause it's
switched from
switching,
Aspen to Synergy to Infinite Campus, and we had just had some questions in those switches, and we wanted to make sure that as we were making all of these changes and the information going into those systems, that was clean information, that it was accurate information, especially since we were moving forward with this. And I think some of it also, we were looking at the migration of that information, it kind of happens naturally as part of this.
Yeah, and we had extensive conversations with your IT team regarding the migration, and it was like a full-phased, project, regarding that. So right now, we feel confident, just as a preliminary, observation that we've had, we feel confident that the migration, was strategic and implemented properly.
Now, I don't know where you're going, if you're going from a data privacy question in what you're going to, because then the question you would ask is under the NIST assessment, does any of the data security and privacy policy, and also it has to deal with Ed Law 2D, does that go into any student assessment programs? Would that be a question that you're asking?
Or she said it way better than whatever she said.
Whatever she's.
Did that make sense, the question I asked there?
So the initial NIST gap analysis that we
Yes.
did back in 22 did cover that. The NIST monitoring piece is more about making sure that the ed law compliance piece is still in place and assess the recommendations that we have in the initial NIST gap analysis.
It's a monitoring, so it's a monitoring,
It's a monitoring
right?
piece, yeah. There were I think there were 3 recommendations left, from the initial NIST gap.
Okay.
To look more in detail about, specific applications and their data security controls, that's a different scope, that we have to discuss.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes. Anyone else have any questions?
Just one question. Through the interview process on either of these two audits, did anything come up that was a red flag that whether you shared here or you shared it with the board or you shared it with the business office? I always like to ask that question with auditors as they're interviewing things. Are they just hearing something that might be a gap or something that might be missed?
I don't have yet like any observations yet in that regard, but we will collect all that information and present it, to the district first to make sure we have all the facts correct, and then we will discuss it, to the audit committee.
And I was just gonna ask, I know a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago now even, we did do an additional cybersecurity assessment that was a deeper dive than the one that's already included within our current assessment. Do you recall that? Do you remember?
That's the NIST gap analysis.
That's in this gap analysis already. We don't have to do anything more above and beyond in excess, or is there a recommendation to do anything?
So that was back in 22.
Yeah.
We're in 26, like, typically, we do recommend, like 2 to 3 years to redo that NIST gap analysis. We have done all this monitoring pieces, but like going into the deep dive again, it is a good practice because things change, from year to year.
So it would be a recommendation that that this would be appropriate in our timeline of cycles, because it will be about 4 years, I guess, since we
Right.
last did it.
But remember, it was a separate engagement.
I remember that, yes, it cost additional monies and it was outside of our normal arrangement, right?
Because it's 18 controls, each control has like sub-controls, there are about like 138 controls that we look at. So it's a very deep analysis.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just have that summary up, I'm just trying to find it in the last few pages. So would this fall under the cybersecurity when you?
Yeah, so in our risk
All those
assessment,
bullets there, okay.
so in our risk assessment, we do take into account like the work that we have done with the initial NIST gap analysis back in 21, 22, and then all the check marks that you see under our information system and
Limited
cybersecurity is all the monitoring services that we have
Correct.
provided.
But the one that was done in 21, 22
Was the special one.
was we weren't even privy to see most of the outcomes of that because we were keeping everything so confidential due to risk and confidentiality, I guess, right, security issues.
Mhm.
So I guess the question would be, sorry, are you finished with your?
I am, yeah.
And any other questions anyone has? So I think some of the questions that we can bring forth is, if you recall in this process, what we do is granted, we don't have the assessment back from yet, but we start talking about what we want them to look at for next year, that they're going to begin in July. Dr. Posse brought up a question about retiree benefits. We could look at a deeper dive of data security controls. We have other options that we can look at. I'm just gonna ask this question because what also happens in the process, and I'm clarifying this for those of you that are new, is that we make a recommendation to the board, and then the board says, oh, I think your recommendation is great, and let's go forward with it based on whatever rationale we provide them. I know the ticking clock of life in the board, and I think of the number of meetings we have. We have a meeting coming up in early May where we could make that recommendation. Our May 19th meeting is usually just for the budget vote and the election results. We don't do a ton of business there. And now we have an early June meeting, which I do think precedes this June 17th meeting, and then we're into July. We'd like to provide Naraki with what we want to look at before they're starting to do their deep dive in July. So I think it's prudent for us to have this conversation. And at a minimum, I think we should ask the question of, do we want to try and get on a 4-year cycle to look at cybersecurity, even though we do know it has an additional expense to it? That's what I'm posing to this committee.
I think in fairness to the group, it would benefit to see what I'm looking at, or, because you brought up, it shows you the cycles of what we've already done. I don't think everyone memorizes this cycle. So like transportation hasn't been done since 2013, 2014, but is that just like a typical thing to never do it again?
Well, the other thing, so wait a minute, so the reason I bring up cybersecurity first and foremost.
Okay.
Cybersecurity
One
is
at a
not
time.
included at all in what you're
Yeah.
looking at. So as part of our arrangement, we are allowed to have an item that we discuss. And so I would like to pause for just a
Focus,
second.
cyber is totally separate.
Cyber is totally separate and it has a separate expenditure. This is a business decision, right? That we are recommending for our school district is, do we want to recommend at least this year that we put ourselves on a certain cycle, or do we want to consider putting ourselves on a certain cycle that we're recommending that we do in more in-depth cybersecurity NIST gap analysis?
Another option that we can have on cybersecurity is, because we've been working with, Ryan for many years and we've had a great relationship. But another option is maybe we can work with Ryan and review their current documented procedures that they have in place surrounding their compliance with Ed Law 2D and the NIST, and assess those documented procedures. And I'm saying this as experience with other clients, because it has been a request for us to look at their procedures or help them draft procedures for them. And others have also asked us to look at their disaster rate and their incident response plans and provide critique and comment on that. And because I feel like that's the biggest area where we see most of our recommendations fall into, the documented procedures. So again, it's instead of doing a full-blown NIST gap analysis again, maybe it's now targeted to look at these documented procedures. And after that, we can do the NIST gap analysis.
And would that be included then in our arrangement, or is that outside of our arrangement? Because that would be what we're choosing as our look back, right? for the
So
year?
if it's within our arrangement as the internal audit engagement, it will be limited to that budget number that we have.
Correct.
Okay, so it won't be all the procedures, it will be select.
Oh, so this could be all the procedures is what
So
you're
if we
saying?
do let's say a separate engagement,
Separate,
we
yeah.
can try to make it for all the procedures.
Okay.
So this audit is simply a process audit in terms of the, are we adhering to the Ed Law 2D regulations in terms of making sure that all of our vendors are signing the Ed Law 2D contracts related to data privacy and security. Does Narovsky do penetration tests of our networks?
I'm gonna say no, because our assessment is to make sure that penetration tests are conducted at the district.
Yes.
Whether it's external or internal. I'm gonna say we don't have the credentials or the experience to do pen tests. So the NIST gap analysis is far more than just reviewing processes. It's all compliance. It is the processes. It is about making sure you have proper contracts in place with third-party management. But it is also an extensive review of the documents to make sure that, let's say, firewall settings are set up, set up properly, or your disaster recovery plan is updated and has the documented procedures for that. Or your inventory of hardware and software is, adequate and accurate, so it's a big audit process,
I thought we had for that one in 21, 22, there was no penetration aspect of it at all. I thought there was something with that though.
No, it was.
Oh, there was with that one in 21, 22. Okay,
Mhm.
You're just talking about in this modified option that you're suggesting now.
The modified option, if we wanna call it that.
I just need another name, yeah.
It's all about making sure that we have, in the corporate world, everybody knows SOPs.
Yes.
We have standard operating procedures for each of these 18 areas that we look at.
The other thing sometimes with the insurance carrier, if it's Crum and Foster in a situation, their industry group will also come and give presentations to management and profit area. And they have retained expert lawyers in this field on incident response and all those type of things. And as part of the premium, they just kind of come in and they can give a presentation for best practices and those type of things to IT and controller groups, which is not a cost, but it might be a value add.
Okay, that's a good suggestion too. So, okay.
Is there, aside from, I mean, I believe you just mentioned that it would be kind of time for cybersecurity, but is there anything else that's on a 4-year cycle as far as like a special?
I'm only looking at cybersecurity was a new thing, so we utilized this cybersecurity analysis to help us establish that is it worthwhile for us to get the additional cybersecurity insurance, to justify that? Many cybersecurity attacks were happening at a number of school districts on Long Island. There was an uptick in it, and we felt at that time it was part of it. Again, I think, and cybersecurity falls in its own world. So we've never had this discussion of whether or not this should or should not be on a cycle. Everything else, typically what has happened is we say we haven't looked at human resources, or we haven't looked at, transportation, and we pick an area within that, and maybe it's not the same area that we looked at 5 years ago, but we look at a different area within that, under that heading, and we utilize Dimitri's expertise in what they're seeing from the comptroller's office on what's being audited and other things that are happening within school district industry.
Sure.
So that's kind of how we've made our justification. Last year, using the student information system choice, that was really timely because of all of our changes within that and we wanted to make sure that as we were going through this process, this was a wonderful time to make sure we were compliant, that everything was seamless, that, all clean data was going in, et cetera, and we were using our systems in that appropriate manner. We thought it aligned nicely with that. Does that make sense?
Yep,
Okay.
I'll just clarify my question.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So with your services, at some point, not right now, we are gonna potentially discuss what we would like reviewed in the included package.
Yeah, we're gonna do that in
This
just
is
a
a
second.
separate
I'm just
co-
asking about the cybersecurity outside.
Which is a separate fee.
cost, yes.
Okay.
So the question is,
No,
yes,
Before that,
Yeah.
before you ask everyone,
yeah.
has there been anything else that is a separate fee that the district has looked at in the last 4 years?
Not that I'm aware of. And I don't even know what's offered outside of this package.
Okay, so this has been the only one?
Unless we wanna do multiple,
No, I'm not, I'm just
Internal
saying,
reviews,
to
right?
prioritize something, just so I know what we're discussing.
yes.
Are we forgetting this other one that is another separate fee? I just wanna make sure I'm well versed on
Got it.
everything we're not talking about, not just cybersecurity.
Yes.
Okay,
I think everything has been
included.
high risk, moderate risk, low risk, and put it on cycles over the years.
Yes.
That's how it's sort of been, the areas have been addressed.
Yes. Harry?
No, I was just gonna say, for the last review, you mentioned that there were some factors, some incidents that were happening. So I know, personally, I'm not generally a fan of putting things on a cycle just for the sake of it. So I guess it would be a question also for you, your risk assessment, last risk assessment, what was the rating for this area? Is that we should be doing it, especially if it's an extra service, based on the need and, observed or perceived risks that are escalated. So where did this area come out in the latest risk assessment? Because I don't have
So on the cybersecurity side and the IT, they came at low based on all the work that we have done. And
Yeah.
we spent a
We
lot
were
of time.
very lucky. We've been very fortunate, so
Yeah.
yes.
So maybe, do we consider the included model for next year at least, and then, I don't know, if it's a low area, then.
One of my questions is gonna be, with AI becoming such a ubiquitous thing,
Yes.
It
well,
should
and I don't
be
remember if we
often.
talked about it here or not, I have some memory of it, do we have an AI policy of what isn't allowed with district things? Is that factored into your cyber policy, I just, cause I'm seeing, everybody's seeing it everywhere, and I forgot what article I was reading recently, where it was like, AI is now finding the bugs in all of the software that's out there that we've all been using for so long.
And exploiting it.
I'm just curious what we're doing.
Well, there's even a NIST framework for AI, risk management, so, what we
Yeah.
need to look at that.
Yeah, so in answer to your question, just like the request has been made for an online banking policy, the request has been made that an AI policy be looked at. It at this time it has not been brought to the policy committee, it's on their cycle of policies, and it has not moved up to the top tier level of priority at this point. But
I
There's a lot of
I anticipate,
I have a follow-up, go ahead.
okay, I anticipate it will be moving up shortly because we do have, some questions about social media, we have Ed Law 2D policies, but data privacy, et cetera. We're reviewing all of those, and it kind of falls under that technology umbrella, so that's where we are in that regard.
So in the absence of a formal policy, is there a rule that is governing district use of AI?
It has to all be Ed Law 2D compliant,
That's
so there
it.
are certain things that we've bought a package called Magic School that our teachers use. There are some AI components within existing software platforms that students have access to, but those AI components are all protected through the agreements with the companies regarding data privacy.
Got it, okay. So like PII, you may, if PII is entered into it, it would be covered through.
Exactly, but like
Okay.
for example, we do
As long
not,
as it's an Ed Law 2D.
we do not allow students to use chat because OpenAI will not sign the Ed Law 2D agreement, so.
Got it,
So
perfect.
we don't give students access to that.
Got that, okay.
So the security question, cybersecurity
So
question.
now we're back to
I think because of the
I thought this was the
nature
easier.
of how quick technology is going,
So-
for me, I would look that we do include it as a special for.
So here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna actually change my original recommendation based on something Dimitri said. I do think it's important to put cybersecurity on a cycle. I like cycles also because it keeps you consistent. You do like cycles.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, you don't like cycles, I'm sorry. Oh, you don't like cycles, I'm sorry. I like
Just for
cycles.
sake of
Okay, sorry.
cycles, he said,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Well, I like it for cybersecurity, but I can be alone. I can be alone in that. But I do like,
I'm with you.
Dimitri, your suggestion of using it as a separate engagement to look at the standard operating procedures of all of our policies. So we do have registered at a low engagement, right, from what you looked at in the 21-22 side of it, and we did have some corrective actions that came out of it. But to now go back and make sure that we have done those with fidelity, we do have all of our policies and processes, and we are communicating and training and doing all of those things out. I see a benefit in that because I think that's oftentimes where things get lost, is the implementation and then the follow through and revisiting it. So I see a benefit in that, and then if we wanted to do the more intense NIST gap analysis for cybersecurity, like we did in 21-22, we could do it next year. We could talk about it again to do it next year, or put it on for a schedule, or bring it before the board. Does that track what I'm saying, or?
No, you lost me now. So do it as the included, do like just.
I think he was offering, did I understand you correctly, that you're offering a compromise to a separate engagement that is different from the one we did
Correct.
and may not cost as much. I don't know how much it costs.
Included. He said included, so.
I wrote that separate, so I don't know.
I heard
Okay.
included.
But either way, it would be a targeted work of our standard operating procedures.
Correct. So it is gonna be a separate engagement to review the standard operating procedures, you know, as a.
All of it. I think that what was included were some, we're gonna do all.
No, yeah, exactly, all. That's because because it still entails a lot of work, you know, to like put together all these documents in place. That's as an option, you know, separate from the NIST gap analysis, you know.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, there is value to that, you know, because once you have standard operating procedures in place, then your NIST gap analysis, you know, will utilize that in making sure you're following the procedures that you designed.
So if I'm hearing you right, you're basically saying you'll assess design of the controls, not the operating effectiveness of the controls. That's a compromise.
Oh, that's even a better way to say it, yes.
And we're back to the whole internal controls, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Jim because we were at the same firm at one point when this
Yes,
was a
and
big
I,
fund.
by the way, I could be on an island all by myself. This is me thinking out loud. That's why we have this committee and what you all think would be a great recommendation to bring to the board. And if we feel we need more time, we can take more time. We don't meet again until June. I thought this was a nice time to have this conversation.
My only question, why not just do the full review, the highest review? What's, just because cost?
Cost?
Yeah, what was the cost?
I don't remember.
Should we see how much the two options cost?
Well, and I don't think the
We're
full,
talking 1,000 different.
I don't think that the full, but I
What are we
don't
talking
think,
about?
I don't remember, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Did the full assessment that we did in 21-22, did it do such a deep dive of all of our controls?
So
The design of our controls?
So our initial missed gap analysis covered all the 18 controls, okay? And, based off of that, we had like these recommendations for these standard operating procedures.
Right.
Okay, so right now, we're saying, if the district wants to do us again, the missed gap analysis, we can certainly do that,
But you might just tell us that we need the same,
But if we're coming to a conclusion, hey, we still need to work on these standard
Yes.
operating procedures,
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
wouldn't it be more valuable to like help the district develop these, procedures?
yes.
So they included separate one.
Okay. All right, so what does everyone else think?
I agree.
We agree?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, great, so we'll bring that as a recommendation to the board. Recommendation. Okay, now, well, I thought that was gonna be the easier conversation. Now is that time when we
Wait,
talk.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is genuine. Would it benefit, so we don't have that AI policy in place. Is that even something you would have been looking at for next year in this modified included separate?
It's all about, there's a different, AI, the NIST has a different AI framework for the AI policy. So if it's not something now developed yet, like it's hard for me to like audit it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Would it not be more important that that be a recommendation to the board, that be put on for like a June, so that it's in place for when
I don't know that it's gonna, I don't know.
We don't even
that
have a
it's-
policy.
We don't,
If
they
you don't
don't.
even have, it makes no sense to set up an audit for a policy that doesn't
Wait.
exist.
She's trying to say the
Get the policy
priority
in
is
place
getting in, so that way.
before you do
Oh,
your assessment.
okay.
Like,
Correct,
if a
but
policy could get done,
I think let's not go
I'm
too.
not pushing,
Let's be realistic, let's be realistic. It could definitely happen.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be on the conservative side here.
That's an excellent approach.
Let's work on the existing
everything
controls.
else. Yeah.
That, we know that, your team has developed, but now like we're just wanna memorialize them and put it in a document. Going into a new area, AI policy, that is just started and
Yeah, it
it's
would be
gonna
time
grow
for
and
implementation.
to like,
Yeah.
to the district's, mission and culture and philosophy. I would wait on that a little bit.
All right, great, so we have that. Now we're gonna go to the one that we do every year, that's included in our engagement, that, again, we just did the student information system. I know Dr. Posse had brought up, looking at retiree benefits.
And Medicare.
And, well, he said that Medicaid
Yeah, I meant the
Had been-
Medicaid reimbursement, yeah.
reimbursement, we did that over both of those other two recent ones as well.
Well, how recent? You said 1920,
And
6
also,
years ago.
no, and then we also did it as part of the stack, we were doing reimbursements with federal aid last year, the
24, 25.
24, 25, yeah.
So 24, 25 included both the retire,
No
reimbursements or
retirement.
just Medicaid?
Just
Okay.
Medicaid, just Medicaid.
So that technically has been recently covered.
But
So
the
it'd be more,
retiree has not.
your request is looking at the
I
retired,
was just asking because, again, benefits and payroll are
high ones,
our
yeah.
And
largest
payroll, we've
expenses.
looked at several times, and we've been audited by the comptroller recently, and we actually came out.
Yeah, it's
So-
amazing that
Yes, it's amazing.
no findings have been.
Yes.
Must have paid
Don't wanna
them to
jinx
write
us,
that.
don't wanna jinx us, but yes. And we could look at data security controls more specifically if we wanted to. I'm gonna throw one out there, wait, before I throw it out, does anyone else have any ideas? I shouldn't speak first. Does anyone else have any ideas?
Go ahead.
Okay, so if you are not aware, I mean, I'm sure you are also watching our budget committee meetings, but we have this year been discussing that in like 27, 28, we're going to look, and then 28 to 30, we're gonna be, 2028 to 2030, we're gonna be talking about a potential bond, right, that we will be bringing to the school district. And when you are putting together a bond, you will involve the work of a committee to help and also partnerships within other constituents, right? So that we can have the input of all and make sure that we're putting this forth, and it also involves using those committees to help get the information out into our community. That's a big, huge undertaking. Within school districts and under New York State, there is a foundation of shared decision-making that exists, and it has some requirements for shared decision-making committees and how they're formulated and structured and what they do to look at making decisions. So everyone's following me so far, right? So my brain thinks that if in the event we are going to be doing a bond, and although we are going to create a bond-specific committee made up of many people, it would be wonderful to make sure that the foundation of our shared decision-making committees are in place, operating well and functioning, so that we can utilize them as a sub or whatever version of committee to that big bond committee to help, again, inform and push information out, also to get information from. Again, everyone's still following me? I feel like I lost some people, but yes.
I think the next sentence is gonna clear it up.
I'm
Okay.
waiting for what's the review.
So my review is, and there is a requirement by law that this is looked at, and we sign a piece of paper and we have reports to the board and things of this nature. Are we in compliance? Are our shared decision-making committees and process working in the manner that it is supposed to, effectively and efficiently? Are we actively, again, this is all about our design and controls. How are we implementing them and pushing them out?
Aside from this committee, which is a shared.
No, this is an audit committee, a required committee of the
Okay.
state, and it's the only
So
recruiting
can
in
you
the
give
Board of
us an
Education.
example of an existing, because the bond one is not existing.
Shared decision-making committee is a committee that is supposed to exist. I guess the closest example I could have would be a compact committee as we have it.
Okay.
Yes.
The only
Okay.
difference is I don't believe
There are committees in existence in the district,
but yes, there
Yes.
compact committees are the.
not just compact.
Those are the committees I would say probably most closely aligned to the makeup and requirement of the rules and regulations of a shared decision-making committee.
Because this
I
is.
could be in totally left field, and I actually was bringing this up because I wanted to know if Dimitri has ever seen any organization look at this, and it may not be value added for us. I just am throwing it out there.
I have to say, I have not experienced audit in this area or shared committees. The closest that I can think of is governance audit, but that's more about, the board and having advisory committees to report to them. I have to look into it to tell you more how we can review this area.
Okay. And I don't know if it's value added. Again, this is a brainstorming exercise, so I'm throwing it out there for everyone.
I'm not, I would be interested to see if whatever the makeup that is created, if we were to go to with a bond and a committee is created, that committee be audited, but it's that we have proper channels, procedures in place for the selection process of that group. But I don't know how much that can be done before that is created.
Well, that would
if
be
makes
part of
sense.
that. Well, you could look at it, we could use our same selection processes that we use for the shared decision-making,
Yeah.
right? That could be your district
And that's
process.
what you're going with,
And
right?
that's what
Yeah.
I'm going with is, I don't know the answer to the question
Yeah.
that I am asking, but I know that in businesses and in life, things are in place and they operate, and it's always nice to make sure are your processes
Yeah.
going through, you have checks and balances to make sure you're operating the manner you should be. Or desire to be, maybe, maybe there's a way that it would be enhancement. Again, this doesn't have to be for this year, it can be for next year, I'm just putting it out there, we have some time before our bond committees begin. But because we operate a year behind, I thought I would just ask the question.
How many bond committees will there be?
There's gonna be like a main bond committee, and then there will probably be some subsets.
Some building level.
Yeah.
perhaps.
But there are gonna be some external parties for the bond committee, right?
Yes, there will be like
Yeah.
external parties, like constituents, like,
Architect.
architects and
Engineers.
engineers, yes.
Professional consultants,
Correct.
to discuss about the needs of a bond, and
Correct.
for what projects and so. So are we looking to assess the committee's qualifications?
I'm just looking at it from a shared decision-making process, but I was looking at that being a benefit that we could have it all in place if there was anything we needed to have more securely in place by the time we move forth to form our bond committee, et cetera.
What was the last bond committee that?
2013?
Is there, public companies have corporate governance committee and charters and processes?
Yes.
So is that what you're kind of getting after, or something formal, and then somebody to check the implementation of those policies or charter that's developed for the bond?
Somewhat, except for it's already an established regulation within New York State of how it should be formed, how it should be implemented, and then the reporting facets and functions of it. So the question would be, are we meeting all of those requirements? Does that make sense? Under the law.
Under the law, right.
I'm wondering whether council, as opposed to auditors, would do it.
We could, that's another great
Just the
suggestion.
way you're describing it, it sounds very legal.
That's a
more
great,
legal.
that's a great, yeah. Okay.
I mean, my preference would be if, I don't know what the committee thinks, but my preference would be looking at areas of financial, the
Typically,
financial liabilities.
Typically we do,
Yeah.
again, I was thinking differently, so yes. I'm okay with the retiree benefits analysis, I just, again, was throwing out there. And we can take the approach even with council on the other, so again, kind of like we did with insurance. We said,
Right.
let's take this route instead and do it outside of the audit. I think
Payroll
that's-
has been audited, benefits other than active and retiree have been audited.
So I'm gonna go and refer to that, schedule that I have it here.
Yes.
So as a cycle for benefits, we did it back in 12-13. However, like in 23-24, we did look at benefit calculations. In 2021, we looked at the retiree benefits.
Oh, we did look at when did we do that?
2021.
Okay.
In 17-18, we looked again at benefit calculations, and in 13-14, we looked at procedures surrounding the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
However, even the retiree benefits, the last time we looked at it is 2021, so it is now 5 years or so.
Yeah, I think, benefits as a whole, there's a lot to do there in terms of active and retiree.
Yep.
With retiree, there's a lot of moving parts, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why that was just fresh in my mind.
Right. Just for your information, and again, based on this history, right? So benefits as cycles,
Yeah.
that was in 12-13. So, but going down the list, revenue cash management was 16-17. Grants was done twice, 10-11 and 24-25. Payroll was, the last one was 17-18. HR was 23-24. Purchasing was in 11-12. But I know the district has a claims auditor
Yes.
to review purchasing accounts payable. Facilities was done lastly in 14-15. capital projects in 2021. Fixed assets, that was 2009, 2010. Food services was 2010, 2011. ECAF was back in 2008, 2009. Student data is done now. PPS was done last year. Transportation was done in 2013, 14. Safety and security was done in 22, 23. Just keep in mind, like, this history is like, it's based on, you know, like risk assessments, the risk ratings, and conversations, you know, with the audit committee.
So I like the idea of starting big because again, we've done payroll. If we do benefits, my suggestion, do benefits next. And then go on to some of those other categories that haven't been visited in some years would make some good sense, in my view.
Sorry, you didn't say the last one though.
Safety and security.
No, 21. So number 21 hasn't been done at all?
Oh, insurance risk management. So that
That one was
the,
was what we just did now.
yeah.
That was just what we just did now, outside of that, but he
If I
put it in
remember
there.
correctly, last year, we talked about 3 things. One was the student information systems, one was the insurance, and the other one was extra classroom activity funds to look at.
Yes, but now our extra classroom activity funds have been so
Amazing.
amazing.
But we're gonna be looking
You're looking
at
at the processes, oh, but you're already looking at the
Just a
processes,
follow-up,
and you're
little
in the
check.
follow-up, yes.
the key control testing.
Yeah, you're already doing that on here, so that's correct, yes.
Excuse me, Julie, I have to be on
No
that.
problem, thank you.
So do you have any recommendations in the cycles noting that, like, what other districts do of what we are lagging behind in so far, or not
And what-
lagging,
no, and
what
the
is kind of
commissioner-
due?
And what commissioners looking at, et cetera, right.
Yeah, I mean, from our experience as a firm, what has been the hot topic recently was like, you know, special ed, and we have done this area.
Yeah.
Okay. From a state controls audit perspective, it's pretty much, again, the typical, like the budget development, fund balance, you know, purchasing, and, you know, payroll, like, you know, with like overtime.
Yeah.
So from what I would, you know, suggest though, based on, you know, risk assessment, you know, like the district has like good controls overall. But I would consider looking again like benefits, as, you know, the superintendent mentioned. You know, like another area could be like, we haven't looked at it at all, was like insurance risk, you know, we just looked at it, yeah. You know, like,
Fixed assets has
Fixed
been-
assets, we haven't looked at
it's
since
been in
2009.
16 years.
Yeah, 2009.
we can look at it too. I don't believe it's a risk area, but we can look at it again.
So I would say, based on all of this and looking, now having this discussion, it seems that the benefits analysis rises to the top as something that would be most value added to have them look at, just to kind of bring this full circle. Does anyone else see or feel? And by benefits, that's gonna include active and retired employees, if you look at it, we're
Yes.
looking at it, so, the big picture. How do you all feel?
I'm good with that.
We've been here so long, I know. Okay, does this committee feel that that's a good recommendation to bring to the board, that that would be our
Yes.
next internal audit for that specific thing? Okay, excellent. So, thank you very much for this
All right.
long conversation. I thought it was gonna go much faster, but it didn't. I just wanna also make sure, as always, I have our action items. I'm gonna look to see that you all can get the claim audits and reports from the claim auditor, so you can be more versed on that. We're gonna receive you have the sample of the online banking policy, so we're gonna share it with the committee, share it with me first.
Okay.
I'm gonna make sure it's in a document that we can all just redline together, and we'll talk about that at our June 16th meeting, so you have plenty of time to do that. And then in addition to that, I'm going to bring forth the 2 recommendations. The first being the design of controls and development from a cybersecurity standpoint, and it will have an additional cost to it. And
Dimitri, if you don't mind, if you could find that information out before May 7th, May 5th? May 5th. Thank you, that would be wonderful, because I could.
The additional
The cost, just so I can present it to the board. And then we're also going to ask the board, we're making the recommendation that for our cycle look, we'll be looking at benefits, including active and retired. Everyone's great. I appreciate, I know this was a lengthy meeting, but the good news is I think we're gonna get rid of our January meeting and we'll just do 3 meetings a year. So we'll just make them jam-packed. All right, thank you guys so much. Welcome to and have a great time. And then we'll just stop.